A couple of days ago, CD Projekt Red answered a few questions from the Polish outlet Parkiet. Yeah, I definitely just butchered that. This is a financial news website in Poland. Many of the questions were around Phantom Liberty and the impact it'll have on CD Projekt Red's stock price. Because, yeah, the stock's definitely taken a hit, and although we had somewhat of a recovery with Edgerunners, things are not back to where they were, not even close. An important note, all of these answers are translated from Polish to English. But in the CDPR describes how they are comfortable with the current state of work on Phantom Liberty. But they also make the big reveal that Phantom Liberty is going to be the biggest expansion from CD Projekt Red to date. Almost immediately, we got a ton of articles highlighting this news and some highly upvoted Reddit posts. That's a pretty massive reveal. CD Projekt Red has made some of the best and largest expansions in gaming, Blood and Wine being the prime example. And that was effectively a new game size, so apparently this is even larger, except that's actually not true, the part about Phantom Liberty being larger. If you saw the headline, this isn't accurate. And it's not even necessarily that this Reddit post or some of these websites were trying to clickbait you, it just seems like it was poorly worded, or perhaps it was being poorly translated. But CDPR has been going around and clarifying, and now the original article has even been updated to clarify that what they meant was that Phantom Liberty is CD Projekt's biggest ever expansion in terms of budget. So basically that Phantom Liberty is the most expensive expansion that CD Projekt Red has ever made, but not necessarily the largest. And it does make you wonder, how much is Idris Elba getting paid for this role? And now, technically speaking, Phantom Liberty may still be CD Projekt Red's biggest expansion in terms of content and the amount of content. CD Projekt Red isn't saying one way or another if it is the largest expansion in terms of content. They're just making it clear that when they said the largest in this article, in this little interview, they meant it was largest in terms of budget. And we actually do know that Phantom Liberty, even if it's not the largest, is still going to be pretty large. In some of the past earnings calls, CDPR has remarked how it is going to be a sizable expansion and its price will reflect that. They've been working on this since late 2020, and for over a year now, most of the devs that work at CD Projekt Red have been working on Phantom Liberty. This expansion has had a massive team for a long time. And considering we still don't even know the release date, it seems like there's a pretty decent chance it's coming out late in 2023, which means there's still a decent amount of dev time ahead of us. But speaking about CDPR stock, it was just recently announced that one of the final of the launch-related issues with this game was settled, that being the lawsuit. If you don't recall, shortly after the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 and the revelation that things were pretty rough on last-gen consoles, at least to put it lightly, several class action lawsuits were filed against CD Projekt Red, some of which were coming from their investors. These ended up all getting compiled into one big class action, and in this the investors claimed that CDPR had made materially false and misleading statements about Cyberpunk 2077's performance on last-gen consoles during the year leading up to the release of the game, with the lawsuit itself claiming that the game was virtually unplayable on the current generation Xbox or PlayStation system due to an enormous number of bugs. So if you bought the game on Xbox One or PS4, you probably had some issues. You probably know at least somewhat about what they're talking about. Now, whether you agree or disagree with their assessment that the game was virtually unplayable due to those bugs doesn't really matter, because CDPR tried to get this lawsuit thrown away and the judge denied that, so it did proceed and move forward, but now we have its conclusion. As just a couple of weeks ago it was revealed that CDPR and their investors have settled, and it's ending with CDPR having to pay out $1.85 million to investors. And some of you watching could hypothetically actually get some money from this. If you own CDR stock through most of 2020, you're going to be eligible for about 50 cents per share that you owned. Definitely not a ton of money, but if you owned a bunch of shares, this could be a decent chunk of change. So now, of course, since this was settled, it's not like this is objectively saying who was right or wrong, and honestly, I have to imagine CDPR is pretty happy with this result. It's got to be pretty nice to be able to finally put this behind them. It's been lingering for several years now, and it allows them to proceed through the rest of 2023 with almost all of the launch-related issues behind them. Although there were some other issues, as some fans, or at least players of Cyberpunk, have taken issue with an award it won recently. A few weeks ago, Cyberpunk 2077 won the Labor of Love Award on Steam. This award is for games that have been out for a while and the team is well past the debut of their creative baby. But being the good parents that they are, these devs continue to nurture and support their creation. This game, to this day, is still getting new content after all these years. So now these awards are chosen or awarded via user vote. You yourself could vote in them, and I'm sure many of you did. So in effect, it's just a popularity contest, and especially after Edgerunners, Cyberpunk 2077 has been a very popular game. So it's not exactly shocking that it won, but some people are definitely frustrated frustrated that Cyberpunk won, and this in turn led to Cyberpunk 2077 getting some negative reviews on Steam, which led to the counteraction of some very highly upvoted Reddit posts calling out the review bombing that was occurring, and even some articles being written on all of this. And this is one of those situations where it almost feels like the reaction was worse than the actual action of the negative reviews. Like, yeah, there were definitely a few hundred negative reviews, but I think the Steam chart really clearly illustrates this. Even during the height of the review bombing, the overwhelming majority of Cyberpunk 2077 reviews were positive, and as of right now, 87% of reviews are positive. There definitely was some frustration, and there definitely were people leaving more negative reviews on Cyberpunk, but it definitely feels like some of the reaction from the community kind of ignored the actual context. We're talking about a couple hundred extra negative reviews among thousands or even tens of thousands of positive ones. These negative reviews basically made no difference in the overall review status of Cyberpunk. And honestly, at least in my opinion, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is pretty young to win the Labor of Love award. It's only been 2 years, and for me, RimWorld is the clear winner of this award. I've been playing RimWorld since 2013, and 9 years after the game did come out, in 2022, it got its biggest expansion ever. But all that aside, Cyberpunk 2077 has been on an absolute tear as of late. There are a ton of people playing this game. Throughout most of 2021 and even 2022, you saw player counts and Steam drop to the low 10,000, and even at points it would drop under 10,000 players. But since the massive resurgence with Edgerunners in September, Cyberpunk 2077 has been healthily above that. And in November, December, and January, it has been averaging around 30,000 players, nearly 3 times what it was doing the past 2 years. And with this in mind, and even some of the other negative things now being behind them, it seems like CDPR has definitely created a perfect situation for Cyberpunk 2077 to have a massive comeback if Phantom Liberty is able to deliver. But speaking of delivering, there's also been a few updates on The Witcher 3 Next Gen. Or at least, The Witcher 3 Next Gen had some notable performance problems on PC. There were stuttering issues and just general low performance on DirectX 12, and especially with ray tracing on. There were quite a few people who could explore Night City with full ray tracing, but could barely pull 30 FPS in The Witcher 3 Next Gen in the same situation. Since then, CDPR has released a couple of hotfixes to help with this, and some things have been addressed. But we also just heard on Twitter how they've been quietly working on another update for the game, and it's in its final stages. So we may get even more performance boosts and some more bug fixes. And in general, the takeaway is, despite their relative silence on The Witcher 3 Next Gen, they have been working on it. So hopefully we should have a decently sized update coming in the next couple of weeks. And if you're a console player, you could even buy The Witcher again, as a new physical release of The Witcher 3 is coming on January 26th. So if you're interested, that's definitely something to look out for. Overall, 2023 is shaping up to be a really good year for Cyberpunk 2077. We still don't really know when Phantom Liberty is coming. I have a feeling it'll be in the later half of the year because, well, we haven't really heard much. We still don't actually know the release date, but at the same time, I'm pretty okay with that. I want CDPR to take as much time as they need, and even if they have to push it to 2024, I'm pretty okay with that. I think Phantom Liberty, if it releases in a really good state, if it's a ton of new content and a halfway decent story, could be a massive release overall and really change the tune and the overall perception of Cyberpunk even further. Of course, a ton of work has already been done on that, but at the same time, I feel like Phantom Liberty could be a massive catalyst to turn things even further. With that said, hopefully you guys found this one informative, your first update on Cyberpunk in 2023. But with that, I thank you all again for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.